So the first step, I want you to take a couple of these pieces apart to make your pinch pot. You're first going to pound this in your hands. Then you will take your thumb, push straight down, make a claw with your hand, and then pinch and rotate to create your pinch pot. Now at first it's going to be very thick. Then you can set it down on the paper plate, kind of let the paper plate move it around for you. Remember, whenever you're making anything out of clay, the rule of thumb, is that it should be no thicker than the width of your thumb. Okay, that's going to make it too thick. So I'm just kind of using my fingers to even out my pinch pot, because this is going to be the bowl shape for our teacup. And then I want to make sure that this rim is all even. Then you'll want to make sure that you tap the top. That way that's nice and flat. Then that would be your bowl of your pinch pot. Okay. Your next step, I'm going to slide this off to the side. Your next step is to make the foot. So the foot, you are going to make another kind of rolled piece of clay in your hands. Then you're going to flatten it. So you're kind of pounding this in your hands so that you can have an extra support on the bottom of your clay. So there I have a nice flat disc. It's no thicker than the width of my thumb. So now I'm going to place this down. I can take my fettling knife to kind of trim this if I want to. So maybe I want to make this into a square. I could make this into a circle. It kind of depends on what you want for your project. So use your fingers to smooth this around the edge. This will go on the bottom of your teacup. Then your next step is to make your handle. You take a little bit extra clay. You're going to roll it in your hands because you're going to make a coil. So you try to make this pretty even all the way around the coil. So I'm just kind of spreading this down, trying to make it smoother on the edges. It's a lot of techniques that go into making your animal teacup. The next part that I need to check is if the handle will work for my teacup. So this actually is a little bit long. So I will need to trim this down. And when you trim to make your handles, try to trim them at a 45-degree angle. Here's the shape of your basic handle. If you want something a little bit more ornate, looking at the resources that are on Schoology, this would attach to the side of our teacup. So when we go to attach two pieces of clay, you have to do the score, slip, and stick method. So for scoring, I'm just using the fettling knife, but you can use the needle tool for this or the scoring tool. So I'm just making these hatch marks into the clay. So it is good practice to try and score everything. That way you only have to attach things once. So now I need to attach them using slip. Lightly dab the water onto the areas that you're joining. The clay is pretty soft, so it does move around a lot, and that's okay. It'll stiffen up when it goes to the leather hard stage. Then I line this up. So I push it on. So score, slip. This is the stick step. And then you want to smooth out your joint. For you guys face to face, you might use your smoothing brush to help smooth out these little areas. For you guys that are working at home, you may use the back end of your spoon or your fork or your knife to help smooth those out. Now, another way to attach things together is with slip. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a very small pinch pot, and then I'm going to take some water and actually put it inside the pinch pot. You take your brush, you smooth this around, and it's going to create slip. Then you can just take your brush, put some of your slip onto your areas. We'll need to put slip on the bottom of here. Then I will stick. So there we have that all attached. You can see that the slip is starting to goop out, which is perfectly fine. That tells us that it has a nice strong bond. So when you're working with clay, you're going to get messy. It happens. So there, I've got my basic teacup. Now, when you go to refine your teacup, you may need to smooth it out and take pieces off of it to make it look even and less lumpy. So right now, my teacup is pretty lumpy right now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my loop tool. Kids at home, you'll use a spoon, and you can just take this tool and very lightly skim it across, the surface of your teacup, and you'll be able to feel where the bumps are. Notice I'm only doing a little bit at a time. My teacup is very soft, so it is bending right now when I'm working on it, but it still helps. So this is just taking the tool and very lightly skimming it across the surface. You're not digging deep. You're letting the tool do the work. So this is called the subtraction technique, where you just pull away a little bit of clay at a time. Right? You can take your sponge. Kids at home, you can just use your fingers for this if you want. And you can move the sponge across the surface of the project as well. And that's going to really help even out all of those bumps. You may also just want to use your fingers for smoothing rather than the sponge. And then you would have to trim this top. So taking your butter knife or fettling knife, you may need to trim a little bit around the edge. Use your paper plate to move your project. And this can make sure that things are even. If you notice parts are thicker rather than thinner, take your loop tool again, and you can kind of carve away, use its subtraction technique, and then use your fingers to smooth it out. And there, that is how you smooth and refine your teacup.